All right, last week we talked about monoalphabetic ciphers. Remember the Caesar cipher? Y'all remember that, I hope. Hopefully that's fresh in everybody's brain. Well, this week, let me get my mouse working here. We're going to be talking about polyalphabetic ciphers. That are ciphers with multiple alphabets, okay? So the index of coincidence for English was 0.0667. I couldn't remember that number for some reason, okay? But that's based on one alphabet. For instance, we talked about how English has E as the most common letter. Remember that? Well, that's with one alphabet. What if I mix up the alphabet so E is not the most common letter anymore? You could really screw things up, okay? So the way to do it is flatten the distribution. In other words, we don't want one letter to have a lot. We want it so they're kind of equal, and we're going to see how that's done, okay? Well, using multiple alphabets does that. Okay? So if we had E as our most popular letter, and we shifted the alphabet over by 1, then D would be the most popular letter, and then shifted again, C would be the most popular. But if we did that 26 times, then wouldn't you agree they would all be equal? And that's pretty much what this does, okay? So if we have one alphabet, the index of coincidence is 0.0667. 2 is 0.052, all the way up to infinity. Because once you get enough, it's pretty much flat, okay? So let's explain how this works, okay? I have some plain text here. It says, this is a test XXXX. Anyone know why I put the X's at the end? It's not pornography, too many X's. It's not the size of my shirt, not quite that big yet. It's because when you're doing this, you like to make it in chunks. Well, a lot of our encryption is based on block size. And you want to make sure all the block sizes are equal, and this block size happens to be 5. It's just better. Because did anyone, I know some of you are probably way too young for this, but when I was a kid, on the Sunday paper, they had the daily jumble, whatever, where you found the 2 words, like, okay, it's either is, of, and, or it, and then you could figure out, okay, that's an I, and you can solve the puzzle. Same stuff, okay? Well, so if I took this as the test, and if I encrypted the T with one alphabet, okay? Encrypted the H with a second alphabet. Encrypted the I with the third alphabet. Everybody with me so far? Just 3 different alphabets. Okay? Think if it's our English language, then we shifted by 1, then we shifted another one by 1. Okay? Then we start all over again. Okay? The S is encrypted with alphabet 1, the I is alphabet 2, the S is alphabet 3, and so on and so forth. So what if I took all the alphabet 1s? That would be the T, and the S, and the A, and the S, and the X. Do you all agree they're all encrypted with alphabet 1? Okay? So I took just the alphabet 1 letters. Couldn't I still do frequency analysis on that and find the most common letter, and E should still be the most common letter and all that? Because it's one language, one alphabet. It should still work. But we could choose these. If you want to make it hard, we want to choose these so that there are no waves in the frequency, okay? It'll get clear, okay? Well, there's something called the Veneer Cipher. When I went through the CISSP training, it's kind of funny. The guy is like, yes, there's something called the Veneer Cipher. I'm like, the what? I said, no, this is the Veneer. He's like, oh, I thought it was Veneer. No, it's not the Veneer. It's a Veneer Cipher, okay? It's a polyalphabetic cipher. It means more than one alphabet, okay? Based on the Veneer table or tableau, okay? Use 26 possible alphabets, each keyed by a letter. When I was in the University of Tulsa, this was my first assignment. I had to solve this. So I went home real quick that night, solved the entire program, got it all finished, made a nice GUI version of it and everything. Came in the next class for reduction. I was like, oh, by the way, that needs to run at the command prompt, no GUI. I'm like, oh, all that work. Shouldn't have done it the first night. I should have waited to the second night. Well, okay, so if I have some text here, but soft what? Oh, I can't. There's that stupid. I can't remember the name. It's,
Romeo and Juliet.
yes, it's the,
That's awful. Like yonder with no brakes.
that's the one. Yeah, that thing. Okay. Well, if that was my plain text.
I felt that over there. That was good.
Okay, so if that was my plain text, okay, and if I used a key, say my key was Juliet. So if I encrypt the first letter with the J, then it's going to become K. Believe me, it will. The second letter with U becomes O. I know U and U is O, you'll see. Then T and so on. You'll see that the key repeats. Because we talked about last week how key-based ciphers are better than non-key-based ciphers. Because this one here, remember the Caesar cipher was just sifting it by 3. That sucked. Okay? I mean, even Cameron solved that one. Okay? This one here, now we have to know what the key is to do it. It's not just to shift to 3. It's an actual key. Okay? So let's see how this thing works. Okay? There it is. The Veneer tableau. Okay? What he did is, if you notice, it's just the alphabet shifted by 1. And then one more. And then one more. So K, then there's L, M, N. It's all shifted over by 1. So let's write down, I'm going to write down a couple letters here real quick. It was J and B gives us K. U gives us O. LT gives us E. Okay? I'm just writing down so I can use it. Okay, so J and B, if I find J and B, I get K. You all agree? If I use U and U, you get O. Everybody see that? So if I do L and T, L and T, we get E. So it's kind of cool, isn't it? That's what he thought of. Okay? Called the Veneer tableau. Because it's not shifted on one alphabet. It's 26 different alphabets. Even though they're the same letters, they're all shifted over by 1. So now instead of E being the most popular, a different one would be. So you agree that that would really mix it up pretty good? Okay. We're not going to walk through all the rest of the letters, but. All right. It was considered unbreakable for 300 years. Okay? That's a long time. Nowadays, they break something in minutes, but we have computers. But this was broken in 1863 by a Prussian major. His name was Kaczynski. Does everybody know that name? Positively. So when you see Kromansky on the test, you're going to say, that's wrong. It's Kaczynski. Okay? Okay. Don't say I didn't know it was on the test. Okay. So in 1863, trying to think back to 1863. I'm older than y'all, not quite that old. But what kind of computers did they have? None. What kind of anything did they have? They had rocks, sticks. Did they have too much beyond that? I mean, I think they didn't have chariots back then, maybe horses. Cotton gins. They had a few things. Did they have the abacus? I don't know. But my point is, how did this guy figure this out? I mean, first of all, how did they even make this? And then 300 years later, he goes, aha, I know how to solve that. Well, he proposed a method for breaking it that consists of finding the length of the keyword. Because remember when we go back to here, remember Juliet? Or actually, let's go back one more. Remember I showed you that here we have 3 different alphabets? So every 4th character was all based on the first alphabet. So the T, and then the S, and the A. So if you know the key's 3 in this case, y'all see the key's 3 because there's 3 alphabets, it's much easier to break because now we know that every 4th one is all in the same alphabet. So if we can determine the key length, it makes this a lot easier. So it says for a method breaking the cipher that consists of finding the length of the keyword and dividing the message up into a whole bunch of simple substitution ciphers like the Caesar cipher. That's all it is. So if you can find, you know, the keyword is 3, so you take number 1, number 4, number 8, yeah, so on, then that's just a shift. Then you just have to do the same thing for number 2, and number 5, and number 9. Okay? So the whole point is, how long is this darn key? Okay? So once you know how many letters were in the key, then you can use frequency analysis. Because again, the first and the fourth and whatever, the most common letter would most likely be E again. And the second would be N or R or whatever. But you could do that for each one and solve it fairly quickly. Okay? Yes, no? Okay. Well, here's how it works. And luckily for you, you have an assignment on this. And guess what? It's on the test. Everything's on the test. Isn't it nice? So, when you ask me what's on the test, just everything. Okay. Here's how to break it. Identify repeating patterns of 3 or more. That statement right there causes more students problem than anything. Because they look for 3. Look for longer. I mean, the way it's done is 3 or more, but the longer the repeating pattern you can find, the better. Okay? For instance, if the key was Juliet, so if the key was repeated, Juliet, 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 J-U-L was also repeated. Do you agree? J-U-L, J-U-L. But really, it would have been better if you found Juliet, because just J-U-L is not going to break it. So find the longest repeating pattern you can. Okay? Then for each pattern, write down the starting position, which we're going to see. Okay? So when you find this repeating pattern, which we're going to see an example of, write down where it starts. It started at position 5. Then it repeats starting at position 21. Then at position 83. Okay, so write down all the starting positions. Then subtract the difference. So between 5 and 21 is X. Between 21 and 83 is what? Okay, so you're subtracting the difference. Then factor those numbers. Y'all know what factoring is? So if I tell you the number 6, what's the factors of 6?
3, 2.
3, 2, there's 2 more.
1 and 6.
1 and 6. So I tell you the factors of 21.
3, 7, 1, 21.
3, 7, 1. How about the factors of 7?
It's too much math. 1 and 7.
1 and 7. Okay, so I mean, it's not tough. Okay? So determine the factors. The key link will be one of the repeating factors. So if I have this thing repeating multiple times, find all the beginning positions, subtract the difference, then factor all the differences. Whatever's numbers are in all of the factors are the probable key length. Simple, isn't it?
So what do you mean by repeating patterns?
I will show you that. Okay? I will show you that. All right. Now, die. I'm giving you the key link, or the key, and the plain text, and the ciphertext. Okay? But let's just look at the ciphertext. Okay? So looking at the ciphertext, you'll see that BLZIUDLR is in there 3 times. Makes it easy. It's underlined and in red. Not quite that simple on the assignment or on the test. Okay. So you see we found a repeating pattern that's fairly long. Okay. The first one starts at position 20. Don't count spaces. And when you do this for the assignment, there's spaces between them. Just remove all the spaces. Okay. So the first one starts at 20. The second one starts at 83. The difference between 20 and 83 is 63. The factors of 63 are 3, 7, 9, 21, and 63. The next starting position is 104. So 104 from 83 is 21. The factors of that are 3, 7, and 21. So the common factors are 3, 7, and 21. And if you look, the key's Dickens, so it's 7. Okay? Ever see how to do that?
Nah.
Well, you're going to see how to do it. You get an assignment. Okay? So let's walk through this one more time, just because you have to be able to do this. Again, you're only going to have the ciphertext, so only look at the C line. The whole point I gave you the rest just so you can see that they are the same letters. But you're looking at the ciphertext for letters that repeat. Is there any other letters that repeat? Well, I do have two O's there. Or, let's see, is it an R-I-N? I mean, you just, one way to figure this out is if you go in Word, select a few of them. Like select LBYK. Then search for LBYK. Huh, I didn't find it. So guess what? That's not a repeating pattern. Then search for BYKW. Huh, BYKW is not there either. Then search for YKWG. You just search for in Word for something that repeats. And once you see something that repeats, then just see if it's longer. So you ever understand how I said to do that? Or you can just write a program to do it. That's simple. I know Marlene's like, stop with writing the stinking programs. Okay. But look in the ciphertext. Again, we're only looking at the ciphertext here. Look for repeating patterns. And in this example, it's the VLZIUDLR that's repeating. Y'all see that? You see that?
Yes.
Okay. It's repeating 3 times. And figure out where it starts. You know, if this was position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then this is 20. This is 83, and that's 104. Then subtract the difference. 83 minus 20, you get 63. 104 minus 83, you get 21. And then get the factors of it. So the fact, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so if you continued on, let's say it was longer, and you continued on and it kept saying like 3, you could just...
Exactly. If you did it again and the common factors turned out to be only 3, then the key was probably be 3. Yes. Very good. But for the assignment, you just got to tell me the probable key length. Okay. But on this one here, based on just this, if you didn't see the key or the plain text, your answer would be 3, 7, and 21. Most likely 7 or 21. 21 seems like a little bit long of a key, so 7's probably good, which it turns out it is. 3 is just a little short. Okay? But factor them out, so you factor 21, you get 3, 7, and 21. There's also 1, but if it was a key length of 1, we got a Caesar cipher. I mean, it's not even, so 1's never the answer. And we also got 3, 7, 9, 21, and 63. Again, look for the common factors. You end up with 3, 7, and 21. Easy enough? Okay.
So that's the number of alphabets that they're using then?
That's the length of the key, which is the number of alphabet. That's actually correct. So if you think about it, the first letter is encrypted with the D alphabet. The second letter is encrypted with the I alphabet. Third with the C, fourth with the K, then the E, then the N, and the S. Then we start all over again.
And I also have the D from, in that, no, in the Veneer,
That's the D in
is
that.
that from the top or from the side?
As long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
If you always start on the side, then you're good. It really doesn't matter. Yeah, that's actually a good question. Yeah, as long as you do it the same way each time, you're good. All right. Okay on this? Okay. All you got to figure out is the probable key length. Okay? Now, I will tell you, don't do this. You can literally dump that in Google, and it'll tell you. It'll tell you the key and everything. But when it comes time to take the test, you know, it's not going to be so easy. Because this is actually based off of real words. They're not always on the test. It's gibberish. So if you put it in Google, it's going to be like, that's gibberish. It's don't answer. So don't rely on that. Okay. Let's talk about a couple other ones, and we'll look at your assignment. Perfect ciphers now. We already know this. Monoalphabetic ciphers suck. Too easy. Polyalphabetic, we can even break those. So perfect ones are ones that have non-repeating keys. So what if we had one where the key length was the same length as the message? Okay. There's no repeating stuff. Okay? A one-time pad, you ever heard of a one-time pad? Something with just a big old long list of numbers. It's not repeated at all. Now, does that mean the 2 and the 7 can never be next to each other? Yeah, they can be, but it's not where it's a repeating pattern in there. Where long random number sequence, punch paper tape, or how about a book? It's kind of cool. Think about it. You know, the Gideon Bible is in a lot of hotels all over the world. What if you were to tell someone, okay, the key is the Gideon Bible published in 1972 starting on page 87, line 3. Wouldn't that be perfect for a key? Because anybody could get that because they're everywhere. So. All right. Okay. Now here's some other ways. Dual message entrapment. What if the key says disregard this message, but the message was this message is crucial. In other words, you think you're breaking the key to get to the message, when really the key is the message. You know what I mean? So you can kind of mix them up. In words, you don't know which one's the right answer. Okay? And we'll see more about that in forensics. I have an example in forensics. I have the steganography example. Whereas the message says, whatever, I'm leaving, please don't come back. But if you read it a certain way, it specifically says, hey, come back at 7 o'clock and pick me up or something. That kind of stuff. So I'll show you that in the other class. So. All right, there's also transposition ciphers, another way. Well, if I have a column of 10, so my message says this is a message to show how transposition ciphers work. Okay? What we do is you break up in tens. Then this becomes a ciphertext. Then what do you have to know? You have to know it's 10 to decode it. Because you can put 10 of these together, and then it would fit back together. See that? But that's just another type of cipher. Okay. How could we break them? Look for common diagrams and trigrams. Look for ENs, ERs, ANDs, stuff like that. And if you'll notice here that, you know, if I was to put these, you know, up and down and start looking for common letters, I would see some stuff. And they talk about the sliding wheel, you know, put 2 of them next to each other, 3 of them next to each other, 4 of them next, until you start seeing common letters. Okay? We're not going to do that. It's just so you know that there's something out there that's possible. Okay? It's way too much stuff we could do. Okay? That's more the same. All right. Well, what if we did transposition ciphers, but used 2 columns? So we used column 10, then took that result and ran it again with a column of 15. Didn't you ever do that before? You send someone a message, you encrypt it, or you like use some website to encrypt it, but then you take that result and encrypt it again. You know who's ever done that? Yeah, it really confuses people. They think they get it, and it doesn't mean nothing. You got to do it twice. So the answer is, in this case, 10 and then 15. Okay. All right. How can we break them? That way. You don't need to know that. Okay. Okay. Don't worry about that. There's a lot of stuff in here that Dr. Snowy's like, oh no, you must know. No, you don't need to know that. That's a little beyond this. Okay. Now let's talk about product ciphers. Okay. So let's combine 2 or more approaches. So maybe we encrypt with a key. We encrypt our plain text with a key. Then encrypt the result with a different key. Okay. It's kind of like having 2 locks on a door. You know, we have one door here and one door there. You need one key to get through that door, another key to get through that door. Same thing. Okay. All right, there's this guy, Claude Shannon. I always think of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Did you see when he stood on those trucks? If you haven't seen it, you got to watch the video where Van Damme is on these 2 trucks. He's basically got these trucks, there's Volvo, I think, and they're backing up with him 1 foot on each mirror, and the trucks keep separating until he does this perfect split. But then Chuck Norris did it on an airplane, and then John Claude did it on a satellite. It's hilarious. It's really fun. But, okay. So Claude Shannon in 1940. Now, what was his name? Claude Shannon? Sure you know his name? Okay, I'm just saying. Okay. He wrote a book. Have you ever seen someone say, hey, what's a good book out there? Hey, this one. Okay. He wrote a book called The Characteristics of a Good Cipher. Okay. If we had the Caesar cipher, do you think that would be a good cipher? No, but for the time period, it was pretty darn amazing. But he's determined in 1949 characteristics of a good one. It says, the amount of secrecy needed should determine the amount of effort needed. Okay. Now, if I have the Rose State College, well, this is handy, spring 2013 schedule, how much time and effort should I put in making this schedule secret? Probably zero. Considering it's a year old, or actually a year and a half old, and it's public knowledge anyway. So I would not waste any time in encrypting it. But what if I had something else? It was of value. I don't know. Can't say my paycheck because that's public knowledge too. But, you know, if you had something that was valuable, then you might want to pick an encryption technique, you know, that's better, okay? So, the amount of secrecy should determine the amount of effort needed to encrypt and decrypt it. Timeliness. Also, if something is only good, so this schedule is only good for the spring. Say it was a secret schedule. This is the Rose State secret schedule, okay? But it's still only good for the spring. So do I want to use the AES that's going to take 149 trillion years to break it? No. Maybe it's dead. It takes 21 days. But yeah, I don't know. Just something. Okay. It says keys in encrypting algorithms should be free from complexity. Now, the Veneer Cipher we just looked at, trust me, was not complex. Okay? It might have looked it to some of you, but if you're a mathematician, it's not complex. Okay? When we get to DES, you're going to notice it's a somewhat complex. Okay? But when we get to AES, you also might think it's complex, but it's not. It's just a bunch of steps. Okay? So, it should be key free from complexity. It says implementation should be as simple as possible. Because if you make something too hard to use, what happens? Nobody uses it. If you make something that's so crazy hard, now there's a book out there, I think it was in your syllabus, it talks about two books. Crypto by Stephen Levy, which if you were to read that book, I guarantee you, you'll like ace every test I have in here. You can get it on Amazon for $5, including shipping. It's called Crypto. There's also a book called Hackers, again from Stephen Levy. It talks about the MIT Model Train Club. That's where this whole computer revolution started. It's kind of funny. At MIT, they were given a mainframe, but didn't have passwords on it. Then they finally start making it where people need to have a password in MIT. So the administrators took this sign and put it above the keyboard. Hey, when it asks you for your password, just hit enter. So what did everybody do? Just hit enter. So just was asking for, but it's crypto. Excellent. All these encryption things we talk about in this class are covered in there in story format. You know why they did it, how they came up with it. Now, I actually have a couple in my office who want to borrow. Okay? And I got Hackers as well. Okay. So implementation should be easy as possible. Errors should not propagate and corrupt the message. So can you imagine if they had this schedule here, and they made a typo on page 5, then that typo would propagate through the entire thing. The whole book would be worthless. So you want to make it so that if there's errors, yeah, some parts of it are going to be screwed up. It's like you ever watch something YouTube, every now and then you get a little blurb of crap on the screen, basically. Because, yeah, that one packet probably didn't come through and the video was a little screwed up. But did it screw up the rest of the video? No. Okay. Shouldn't propagate through. And the last one says ciphertext size should be less than or equal to plain text size. Okay. It means if you have something small and you encrypt it, you don't want to end up with Encyclopedia Britannica for an answer. Okay. All right. Let's continue on. Okay. Trustworthy systems are based on sound math. Okay. I'm not a mathematician. Those are next door. Okay. I mean, I got an A in algebra and I did good in calculus. I just don't do much with math anymore. But They need to be based on sound math. They need to be analyzed by competent experts who have found it to be sound. In other words, you need to get someone else to look at it and say, hey, that makes sense. Okay? It's like peer reviewing. And stood the test of time. So do you think the Veneer Cipher stood the test of time? Well, 300 years, that's a pretty long time. So I would say for its time period, it stood the test of time. But its time's over now. Okay? DES, 1977, RSA 78, and an AES 2001. We're going to cover all three of those in here. So you'll see exactly how they all work. All right. Now let's talk about confusion versus diffusion. Okay? Guess what? This is on the test. Amazing how that works. Okay, confusion says interceptors should not be able to predict the effect of ciphertext by changing one character. So if I have your plain text and your ciphertext, if I change one letter in the plain text, you don't want it to just change one letter in the ciphertext, because then you can very easily figure out how the function works. You'll see that it, we'll see when we look at other algorithms that's not the case. So there should be a complex functional relationship between the key plain text and the ciphertext. So let's say if I change character 1 in the plain text, it maybe changes character 200 in the ciphertext, or maybe changes a whole bunch of them in the ciphertext. Okay? Diffusion says changing plain text affects many parts of the ciphertext. So we change one over here, it changes the whole bunch on the other end. Okay? Information about a single plain text can't be found because it's everywhere. And we'll see that in great detail, especially in DES. That one's very obvious. Okay. Stream versus block. Yet again, another test question. So, all right. I know you guys are like, damn, how many questions are on this test? But some of these are on multiple tests. So, okay, stream versus block. Okay. So with stream ciphers, we're going to convert our plain text to a ciphertext. With stream, we do one piece at a time. So if I'm a very, very slow typist, think a stream cipher would be good? Okay, type one letter, encrypts it, gets sent across. Type another letter, encrypts it, sent across. That's great. Block ciphers, on the other hand, have to get a block of text before it can be encrypted. So again, if I'm a very slow typist, I'm working with DES, which has a 64-bit block, you might not see anything for the next 3 days, depending on how fast I type. Okay? So, stream ciphers are like substitution ciphers. High speed of transformation, because you're seeing it immediately as it happens. For every letter that comes through, it's encrypted and sent to you. You don't have to wait for a grouping of it. Low error propagation. If I'm typing a message and I miss one letter, and we're encrypting letter by letter, that one letter is screwed up only. You agree it's not going to affect the rest of them? Okay. Low diffusion, again, if I type one thing here, it's not going to affect the rest of the message whatsoever, but is susceptible to insertion. You can very easily stick something in there. Now, if I'm, again, typing one letter at a time and sending it, you can very easily stick something in the middle. The guy at the other end won't realize it. Okay. Now, block ciphers, those are like transposition ciphers. They have a low speed of transmission. In other words, we have to get an entire block together. It's kind of like getting an entire group of people to decide on something. It takes a while sometimes. Then you encrypt it and send it across. High error propagation. So if I have a 64-bit block and I screw up something in it, most likely that entire block will be screwed up. Okay? High diffusion, we're going to see how that works when we get into DES and them, but change one thing and most likely changes a bunch of other ones. It's immunity to malicious insertions, because if I'm sending one block at a time, the odds of you being able to stick one letter in the middle of somewhere is not going to happen because it's block by block. Okay? So far, so good? All right. Break-in encryption. We're almost done. Okay. Cryptanalysis is a ciphertext only attack. That's where we only know the ciphertext. Think you could break some if you only know the ciphertext? Yeah, I bet you could. Known plaintext. In other words, I know the plaintext, but that's all. I don't know the algorithm or anything. Probable plaintext, you know what you think it was. Okay. Chosen plaintext, these are not on the test, by the way. Okay. I know you think, sweet. I might add them, though. That'd be good. Or chosen ciphertext. In other words, you know the algorithm and the ciphertext. Okay. So just a couple different ways. Okay. That's the end of this recording. All right. Don't go anywhere.